Chinese and Mexican drug rings are taking over the illegal marijuana industry. That's according to the latest report from the Drug Enforcement Administration.
America, while Timmy Tampon Walz just became the first sitting governor in modern history to drop out of his re-election campaign because the fraud got so bad, there's an even bigger scandal that nobody's talking about. Maine Governor Janet Mills is sitting on a $4.3 billion Chinese organized crime operation. And here's the kicker. Her own brother helped transfer properties to Chinese nationals for one of these illegal operations.
Maine is the latest hotspot among 23 states now home to grows run by Chinese criminal groups, according to the DEA.
Federal documents reveal these aren't just marijuana operations. They're human trafficking rings where workers claim they were kidnapped and forced to work until they repay their smuggling debts. And the money? It's flowing straight back to Guangdong province in China, a known hub for Triad organized crime for nearly 20 years. What is up, guys? Tyson DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. The Minnesota situation really opened up a can of worms. Today, we're exposing how Chinese organized crime has colonized an entire American state, while the Democrat governor pretends that it's actually not happening. Let me break down just how massive this operation is. According to the Department of Homeland Security memo, there were over 270 Chinese-backed marijuana operations identified in Maine since 2023. These weren't just like mom and pop shop grows. These were industrial scale facilities allegedly run by transnational criminal organizations. Before we continue, I want to give a huge shout out to the Maine Wire and editor-in-chief Steve Robinson for providing a lot of this information. He's done a very good job with organizing all this. So shout out to the Maine Wire and Stephen Robinson. And shout out to you guys for sending in information about this, specifically a viewer, a subscriber by the name of Tim, who said, hey, you need to look into this. So shout out to you, Tim.
Yet a recent congressional investigation found the Chinese Communist Party holds ownership interests in several Chinese companies tied to drug trafficking and money laundering. 4 former senior federal law enforcement officials confirmed to NBC News those schemes often involve proceeds from illicit marijuana.
Just to give you guys a rundown, $4.3 billion in illicit revenue. Let that sink in. And this isn't just about weed, folks. The DEA and the FBI believe these operations are connected to Chinese organized crime syndicates with possible ties to fentanyl trade that's killing Americans every single day. These operations used Maine's medical cannabis caregiver program as a cover. They exploited the low barriers to entry and rule allowing caregivers to work in multiple locations. It's a perfect legal loophole for organized crime to hide in plain sight. And Governor Mills completely silent about this. No explanation why oversight failed repeatedly, why this criminal empire was being built on American soil. Now here's where the story gets absolutely dark.
A man named Guang Shiyani told police he was approached at a park in Brooklyn, New York by a man offering a meal. He says he was then taken against his will to a grow house in Passadumkeag.
A man was approached in a park in Brooklyn, New York. Remember that location. That's important. He was then taken against his will to a house in Maine that had been converted into a marijuana factory.
People at a suspected grow house who said they were abducted from China and had their passports taken from them.
Another case in Kennebec County. I hope I'm saying that right. Police received a tip from people at a suspected grow house who said, and I quote, "We are imprisoned. We were abducted from China. Their passports were seized until they repaid their debts." This is modern day slavery happening in Maine. These people were being human trafficked, forced to work at illegal marijuana operations, and the money that they generated were being laundered back to China through elaborate schemes.
Bringing in Mexican nationals, bringing in Chinese immigrants as well, and basically bringing them in as the labor force within these grow sites, promising them payment, not paying these guys, kind of extorting and keeping them around.
Now, here's what the mainstream media won't tell you. Some workers claim they came willfully, but if you dig deeper, you find out they're working under duress to pay off their smuggling debts. That's not voluntary employment, like, oh, let me sign the application. That is debt bondage, which is a form of human trafficking under federal law. Now, here's the part that should have been on front page news across America, but was completely buried by legacy media. Governor Janet Mills' eldest brother brother, Paul Mills, an attorney and a managing partner of Mills and Mills law firm, helped transfer a property to Chinese nationals for an illegal marijuana operation. The property is located on 51 Cedar Hill Road in Maine and was originally owned by Zhiling Ao, a 44-year-old from Massachusetts. The property was then transferred to Xiao Lao, Ao's mother, who lives in the Guangdong province of China. And Paul Mills, he's listed as the preparer of the transfer tax declaration forms. Oh, and get this transfer happened 13 days after a major raid nearby an illegal grow. It was almost like that they were trying to create legal distance between the operator and the property. And here's what makes this even more suspicious. This 9-acre property with the house and a 3-bedroom bay was purchased by Ao in February in 2023 as a fixer-upper. By May 2023, an electrical permit application described it as a cannabis grow. But my friends, here's the problem. Carina did not opt into Maine's legal marijuana program, making this operation completely illegal. The property failed both plumbing and electrical inspections. The code enforcement officer refused to sign off on the permits, yet somehow electricity was flowing to the property anyways. Now, Paul Mills says he didn't know what the property was being used for. He said he was just doing the paperwork. You believe that? This is the governor's brother, and he's facilitating property transfers to Chinese nationals in the middle of a massive organized crime investigation. And here's what makes his defense fall apart. Mills and Mills is based in Farmington, Franklin County. The property is in Carina. When a reporter called Paul posing as an attorney seeking title services, Paul Mills declined and referred him to another firm. He said it would be unusual for him to handle a transfer in this particular area. Why did he handle a transfer for a Chinese national transferring a property to her mother in China, a property being used for an illegal marijuana cultivation, when he normally, quote unquote, doesn't take care of these type of situations in that county? And his sister, the governor, had said absolutely nothing about this. No explanation, no investigation, just silence. Let's talk about where this property went and why it matters. The mother, Lao's address, is a massive housing complex in Guangdong province, a city of 9 million people located 70 miles northwest of Hong Kong. And here's what you need to understand about this particular province. As far back as 2007, Guangdong became a hotbed for Triad criminal organizations. An 18-month investigation by Chinese High People's Court found significant organized criminal activity. Officials warned that overseas triads had taken root in Guangdong.
Chinese produce marijuana in these grow sites. There's a demand for that marijuana across the country. The Chinese growers then use Chinese underground banking systems to fuel their money laundering network, with a main hub in New York City, and used to return those drug proceeds to mainland China.
So this property obviously didn't go to just some random person in China. It went to somebody in a province that has been a known hub for Triad organized crime for nearly 20 years. And here's the kicker. Lao is completely beyond reach of Maine and U.S. law enforcement. If you need to contact her about an illegal marijuana operation on a property, good luck. This is exactly how you set up criminal operations. Put the property in a name of somebody who can never be touched by American law enforcement. And the legal loopholes make it even easier. Under Maine's law, Ao doesn't even have to pay real estate transfer tax because it's quote unquote a gift. No capital gains tax on the transfer. Title transfer papers aren't required to do due diligence on the recipients. They don't even have to prove the recipient is a real living person. Nothing in Maine or U.S. law prevents gifting land to individuals in China. So this means you can literally transfer a property to somebody in China, call it a gift, pay zero taxes, and face zero scrutiny. That's the system that Janet Mills is overseeing. And when her own brother facilitates one of these transfers for properties being used as Chinese organized crime operations, she says nothing. In July 2025, 7 Chinese nationals were charged in federal court with a multi-million-dollar money laundering and drug trafficking enterprise spanning across Massachusetts and Maine. Federal prosecutors are taking this seriously. Every member of Maine's congressional delegation, Democrats and Republicans, has asked the DOJ multiple times to crack down. They urged the FBI and DHS to provide more resources. They've called it a national security concern.
Chinese transnational criminal groups seem to be targeting rural areas. What we don't know is it a threat to our national security?
Sounds like you're saying this is bigger than marijuana.
I think it is bigger than marijuana.
Senator Susan Collins believes this could be connected to Chinese leadership. She said, and I quote, "It's impossible for me to believe that Xi Jinping is not aware of this operation." But Maine's governor and state police commissioner, radio silence. They don't even acknowledge that the problem exists. Governor Mills has refused to comment on the particular subject. No press conferences, no public statements, no explanation of the state response. The Maine state police officer, he's also refusing to comment. No transparency about state investigations, no public coordination with federal authorities. I'm asking you guys, the chat, I'm asking myself, why? What is Janet Mills hiding? Is she compromised? Is she protecting somebody? Or is she just that incompetent? Or maybe she hopes it'll all go away if she stays quiet. America, we're watching Chinese organized crime colonize an entire American state in real time. And the Democrat governor won't even acknowledge that it's happening. Janet Mills is pretending everything is fine. Her own brother facilitated property transfers to Chinese nationals in a known Triad stronghold for illegal marijuana operations. Workers being kidnapped and trafficked. $4.3 billion is flowing through a criminal enterprise connected to the same networks bringing in fentanyl into America. This isn't just about marijuana. This is about national security. This is about human trafficking. This is about organized crime operating with impunity on American soil while a Democrat governor protects the system instead of protecting the people. And the more we dig, the more corruption we find. Federal authorities are doing their job. Maine's governor is doing everything she can to avoid hers. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comments section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.